Florida State Prison, Rayford. April 30th, 2025. A single sheet of paper rests on the warden's desk. Typed, signed, and stamped. One name printed at the top. Jeffery Glenn Hutchinson. Weeks earlier, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had signed his death warrant. Every appeal had already been filed. Every legal argument had already been heard. And one by one, every door had closed. Now the state was moving forward. The clock was set. In just 24 hours, at exactly 6 p.m., more than 26 years after his crimes, Jeffery Hutchinson would be executed by lethal injection for the murders of his girlfriend, Renee Fleer, and her 3 children inside their family home in Crestview, Florida. With the warrant activated, Death Watch officially began. Jeff was removed from his regular death row cell and placed into a small, isolated unit just steps from the execution chamber. Less privacy, brighter lights, constant movement. Guards checking on him every 15 minutes, around the clock. This is how the state controls the final hours. Observation, routine, precision. The lights never go off. Sleep never really comes. The night drags on, not marked by rest but by footsteps in the hallway, and the quiet certainty that every minute burned is one that will never return. If you're watching Death Row Files and want to understand what those final hours are really like behind prison walls, make sure you're subscribed. These are the stories most people only hear after it's already too late. May 1st, 2025. Jeff wakes at 4:30 a.m. This is the last morning of his life. For his final meal, he requests salmon and mahi-mahi, asparagus, a baked potato, and iced tea. The tray arrives without ceremony. No special presentation, no audience, just another meal delivered to another condemned man. According to staff logs, he eats most of it. No drama. Just a man eating breakfast on the final day he will ever breathe. Late in the morning, Jeff is granted his final visit. At 11 a.m., his sister arrives, accompanied by an in-law and one of his longtime friends. They sit together in the visitation room for hours, speaking quietly, knowing there will be no second goodbye. Later, his attorneys arrive. For decades, they had fought on his behalf, filing appeal after appeal at both the state and federal level. Claims of mental illness, claims of flawed evidence, claims that something about this case never fully added up. But now, there is nothing left to file. After 26 years, the fight is over. As the clock inches forward, the prison continues its preparations. But Jeff's story did not begin here. It began decades earlier, far from death row. Jeffery Glenn Hutchinson was born on November 6, 1962, in Alaska. He grew up in Kettle Falls, Washington, in a large family with multiple brothers and sisters. Those who knew him as a child did not describe violence or cruelty. There were no obvious warning signs, no clear trail pointing toward what he would one day become. He was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, but otherwise lived a relatively normal life. After high school, he worked a series of regular jobs: mechanic, security guard, roles that required discipline and reliability. And when he chose to be, people said he was capable and dependable. Then he joined the United States Army. Jeff became a paratrooper, then an Army Ranger. He deployed overseas during the Gulf War, including Operation Desert Storm. When he returned home, his family noticed a change. They described a man carrying something heavy, a mental strain that never fully lifted. A version of Jeff that struggled to adjust to civilian life after what he had seen and done overseas. His marriages failed. Stability slipped through his fingers. Eventually, he met Renee Fleer. Renee was 32 years old, a mother of 3, not looking for chaos, looking for a future. Within months, they made a major decision. They packed up and moved to Florida, so Jeff could open his own motorcycle shop. Renee's children came with them. and the household became a blended family under one roof. From the outside, it looked peaceful. Jeff appeared to care deeply for the kids. He played with them, helped raise them, treated them as his own. When they prepared to leave Washington, Renee's brother, Wesley Elmore, gave Jeff a simple instruction: "Take care of my sister and her kids." Jeff answered without hesitation, "I love your sister." 9 months later, that promise was broken forever. September 11th, 1998. That evening, an argument erupts inside the home. Something serious enough that Jeff begins packing his belongings: clothing, firearms. He loads them into his truck and leaves the house. He goes to a bar. While there, he drinks and tells the bartender that he's angry with his girlfriend, that they've had a bad fight, that they need time to cool off. At the same time, Renee reaches out to a friend. She's shaken, trying to steady herself. She explains that Jeff packed his truck, loaded his guns, and left. She believes he's gone. He isn't. Less than an hour later, Jeff returns. He walks back into that house carrying a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun. What happens next will haunt Florida for decades. Inside the Crestview home, Renee Fleer and her 3 children are killed execution style. Jeffrey, the oldest, just 9 years old, is shot first. The blast to his chest doesn't kill him immediately. Jeff stands over the child and fires again, this time into his head. Amanda, 7, Logan, 4. Each is killed with a single shotgun blast. When it's over, Jeff picks up the phone and calls 911. He tells the operator that he just shot his family, that he loves his family, repeating it again and again. When officers arrive, they find him sitting in the garage, phone still in his hand, connected to dispatch. He doesn't resist, he doesn't flee. He simply stands up and allows himself to be arrested. Inside the house, the crime scene speaks for itself. Renee and her 2 youngest children are found together in the bedroom. Jeffrey's body lies alone in the living room. At first, Jeff tells police a different story. He claims 2 masked men broke into the house, that they killed everyone, that he tried to stop them but failed. The evidence destroys that story. Gunshot residue is found on his hands. Shotgun shells sit on the kitchen counter. Tissue from Jeffrey's body is discovered on Jeff's leg. There are no signs of forced entry, no footprints, no evidence of anyone else inside the home. Everything points to one person, Jeffery Hutchinson. At trial, the state keeps its arguments simple. There is no credible alternative suspect, no credible break-in narrative, no physical evidence supporting Jeff's claims. The jury convicts him of all 4 murders. He receives life in prison for Renee's murder and 3 death sentences for the murders of the children, citing their ages as an aggravating factor. If you're finding this case unsettling so far, take a moment to like this video. It helps Death Row Files continue documenting cases that still divide public opinion long after the sentence is carried out. Back in 2025, as the final hours tick away, Jeff files multiple last-minute requests for a stay of execution. All are denied within hours. Around 3:00 p.m., he submits one final claim through his attorneys, arguing that he is not mentally competent to be executed. At 3:30 p.m., state officials step before the press. FDOC spokesman Ted Verver confirms the basics. Jeff has been awake since early morning. He's eaten his final meal. His visits are complete. He is calm and compliant. Outside the prison gates, protesters gather. Some argue the case was flawed, that unanswered questions remain, that doubt should mean life, not death. Over the years, Jeff never stopped claiming innocence. His niece, Natalie Hutchinson, publicly questioned the evidence. She pointed to the lack of DNA, to blood spatter patterns that didn't smear, to a broken murder weapon, and especially to the 911 call. She claimed the voice didn't sound like Jeff, that it carried a southern accent he never had, that he rarely used the word ma'am. The family released the call online, hoping others would hear what they heard. Florida prosecutors declined to respond. For Jeff's brother Robert, it wasn't about blind loyalty. He said that if Jeff were guilty, but he believed something about the case never made sense. At Florida State Prison, preparations continue. Witnesses are assembled. The execution chamber comes alive. At 5 p.m., Jeff is given clean clothes and escorted into a small prep room. Moments later, he's led into the chamber and strapped onto the gurney. 2 IV lines are inserted, one in each arm. Backup upon backup. The warden reads the death warrant. Jeff is asked if he has any final words. He says nothing. No apology, no declaration, just silence. As the chemicals begin to flow, witnesses notice his lips moving, whispering, maybe a prayer, maybe nothing at all. Sodium thiopental, pancuronium bromide, potassium chloride. His body spasms, his legs tremble. Then, slowly, everything stops. At 8:14 p.m., Jeffery Glenn Hutchinson is pronounced dead. 62 years old, executed exactly as planned. But the questions remain. Was justice served? Or did the state silence a man who claimed the truth never fully came out? That question is now left to history. And to you. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.